Hey ladies, welcome once again to Conversations with My Mother. This is my mother, Dr. Betty Burston.
And this is my daughter, Dr. Shatria Collier.
So I don't know if you remember, but last week we started a conversation about finances and the role that finances play in a relationship. And today we're going to pick up with that topic. And our focus today is, what is it, Mommy? Money or honey? Okay, so ladies, you know I like to start off with a reading before we get into our topic. Now, I just have to tell you, this issue of finances is definitely not one of my strengths. I'm good at generating finances, but I'm not necessarily good at managing finances, and we're going to get more into that a little bit later. So I just want to read this piece, and this is from the 7 Stages of Money Maturity. And my little sister, Nonya, gave me this book years ago, and if I were a good girl, I would have read it thoroughly, but I didn't necessarily read it as thoroughly as I should have. So my homework this week has been to sit down and get into this book, because some of the breakdowns I've had financially this week have just been blowing my mind. But that's okay, because it's only short term. It's all temporary. So this one is called, this section is Visions, Inner Wisdom. Excuse me, wisdom, yes. Vision is a type of wisdom. Whether we are rich or poor, vision reaches its fullness only where we no longer experience obstructions around money. We see our financial suffering clearly when it arises. We perceive its roots, that they are in pain and innocence, and through understanding know how to end it. We know with equal clarity the role money plays in our lives and the way to employ it vigorously in the pursuit of our most profound purposes. Seeking deeply without, we find good works to be done wherever we look. So what are your thoughts about that, Mommy?
I like that passage. One of the questions that you had asked me earlier is, are women, in my opinion, overly obsessed with the issue of money? They want honey. By honey, I mean love, the relationship, the mate. But for many women, in some respects, the money, the man's financial status becomes a major barrier. Do you think that that's true for your generation?
Well, you mean a barrier to what? In terms of marriage?
Yes.
Well, we were talking before about this whole idea of, I do think most women want some type of financial stability. I mean, there are women who would be considered gold diggers. Mm-hmm. And then I think there are just women who, for example, in my case, right? When I do meet and marry my beloved, I would like the option. Now, I have a pretty decent career and I enjoy what I do. But I would like the option of, if I would like to stay home with my children for the first few years of their life, mm-hmm. I would like the option of being able to do that.
Okay. There's a reason that women tend to be so concerned with the money part of the honey and money equation. And one of those reasons is because historically women have not had institutional power. And as a consequence of that, they have always been very dependent upon, their mates for that. And even if you look today, when we have, as women have grown institutionally, you still know that males earn more than females. Mm-hmm. Even a male with the same degree. An African-American male earns more than an African-American female on average. And if you look at across ethnicities, this is true. Now, in terms of unemployment rates, the unemployment rates tend to be relatively comparable. But if you also look at labor force participation rates, men, whether they're African American, Caucasian, Asian, Latino, work more than women work. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that has created this insecurity amongst women regarding finances. But the point that I take is that one of the things that is important for both men and women is for money to be invisible in one's life. So you can say, well, how is,
yes,
definitely.
Please tell us, how do we make money invisible?
By having enough of it. Mm-hmm. And it's not difficult to make money. First of all, one of the things that you and many women do is to rely upon labor as your primary source of income. So that's one of the first decisions that as young women that you may want to consider, is not being reliant only upon labor income. Uh, there are several what we call factors of production. Labor is only one of them. And it's not just, as I said, women, it's also men. We can earn income through stocks and bonds and finances. We can earn income through businesses, even if there are many micro businesses.
Like we can, starting our own businesses?
Starting our own businesses. Mm-hmm. We can earn income through rent. And rent doesn't just mean the income one receives from property. If you wrote a book, you're a wonderful writer. If you wrote a book and you marketed that book, that income is considered as being rent, because rent is a return to any fixed resource. You notice once you've written that book, you no longer have to work anymore. I don't mean work at a job. I meant work in terms of other than marketing the book, because the book becomes a fixed source of income. So one of the first things that women may want to do to begin making money invisible in your life so that money becomes less of a barrier in selecting your honey is to create multiple income streams.
But can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Because I do feel like, I know a lot of women out there who do very well for themselves.
You're talking about a job, though. See, one of the things we got to get away, you are never going to do very well for yourselves in a job. The highest paid jobs are physicians. And even physicians make, well, I shouldn't say that. Executives of large corporations are very highly paid, but those executives are not just employees, they're part owners, do you see? Mm-hmm. But in terms of jobs, it's physicians, and physicians now make, even a surgeon probably barely makes $300,000 a year, and $300,000 a year is not, quote, a lot of money. So
now entrepreneurship is hard, though.
Of course it's hard. That's why many people don't do it. But let me ask you a question, and this is for our viewing audience. Have you ever bought a Big Mac?
Not in a long time.
Okay. What type of
But I like their filet of fish, though.
Okay. How much does a filet of fish cost?
Well, on Fish Fry Fridays, it's $1.29.
Okay. Let's say that you spend, if you buy a soda with that Big Mac, you're going to spend approximately $3, $2 or something really, your soda plus the Big Mac. I mean, plus, in your case, the fish.
Fish, like,
If women, say at the age of 18, if every day you took the amount that you spend for a Big Mac and a soda, just throw it into a drawer. At the end of a year, you're going to have approximately $1,000. If you take that $1,000 and you invest that $1,000 in a mutual fund, a good one. My husband and my favorite are the Magellan family, but it can be a lot of different, but you have to do research, and we're going to talk about that. Over a period, by the time you retire, you would be a multimillionaire.
But can I ask you something too? Because right now, because of the economy, they're saying that investing in stocks might not be the best thing. Now, again, ladies, I don't know much about the financial world. So
no, mutual funds, because see, mutual funds are, and some stocks, they're always, whenever, independently of how the economy is, some stocks are going to do well, others are going to do poorly. But one of the reasons women don't say invest in stocks is because we underemploy our brain. And you can say, what do you mean when I say that we underemploy our brain? What I mean is that we spend a lot of time gossiping. We spend a lot of time worrying about what the honey is doing. We spend a lot of time chit-chatting. If we would take some time, invest it, every single woman should know how to read the stock page. Every single woman should track some stocks, because we have something that's very unique. You have to have accurate knowledge, but we also have that feminine intuition. So if you combine that, it gives us an uncanny ability to select good mutual funds or good stocks. Do you see? Mm-hmm. And as I said, we have to shift our brain away from peeping to see who our boyfriend has called on their cell phone, or going through his pockets to see what numbers are listed on his napkins. Yeah. That's not a good, we're underemploying our intellect. So that's one of the things. Another thing that's a way of generating income is, one of the things about women is we tend to have close friends, a few of them. So you get, if you and, I know about 3 of your good close friends, if 3 of you got together put $1,000 together. Go to, you probably need to have a mechanic in your circle to do this. You go to an auction, buy a car, and buy maybe an old Benz or something that keeps its value. Buy it cheaply, resell it. LA is the perfect place for doing that. Most urban areas, people need cars.
Yeah.
And you're using a stair-step approach. You know, step one, you step on that little step, and you make a little bit there. You roll it over, step again. Another thing that women can do, we have to also use the money that we earn more wisely. If some of us would
please expand on that, because I mean, I think, you know, in my case this week, it's not that I think I make okay money, but it's more so proper management of it. Because I'm the same way. I come from your school where I work. I don't mind working multiple jobs. I don't, like as I said, I don't have an issue of generating finances. But one of the reasons why I think my breakdown occurred is because this is the first time I've only had one job in a long time. So
if I tell you something, you promise you won't get mad at me once the show is over?
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, maybe I better
No, go ahead.
You definitely do not maximize your income earning potential.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm just telling you. Absolutely.
And I don't just mean just in terms of, I mean, you're such a brilliant young lady, and if you have finally got your business license.
But I did do that, ladies. It took me a long time.
And how many weeks ago was that?
It was 8 weeks ago.
How many clients have you generated?
I haven't generated any clients.
Okay, so we won't talk about that. But again, if you see what I'm saying, is that if we were to, as women, to use some of our intellect and all of the types of power that we have to begin generating more income, we can make enough. And we don't need you don't have to be a multimillionaire for money to be invisible in your life. Do you see?
So let me ask you though. You said money or honey. You know, why not money and honey?
That's the dream. That's why everybody goes after, the women go after the athletes, the entertainers.
But so is it inappropriate to think that you can meet a man who, and I don't even think meeting a man who's who's super financially established, but what about just meeting a man who, let's say you two meet on the same financial level? Because what happens if you meet a man who you're the same age as that man, but that man is really struggling financial, let's say we're, again, middle-aged, 35 years old. How long does one recognize his potential before deciding, I don't know, because I know that I would like to be able to take off for a year or two after we have our children?
Let me ask you a question before I answer that. How do you see your future? Do you want a working class lifestyle, a middle class lifestyle, or a upper income lifestyle?
I don't necessarily need to be rich, but I definitely think an upper middle class lifestyle.
Okay, what income level do you think you need to have an upper middle class?
Maybe like $250,000 a year, joint.
You see, it depends upon what one wants in terms of out of their life. If one wants, a very high income lifestyle, the only type of mate that you're going to have that with is one who's self-employed. And the problem there for a person,
well, what about,
if you want, wait.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If you want, I said this is an upper middle class lifestyle, and when you go into that most businesses fail within 5 years. It may take a cycle of 15 years before it starts generating a lot of money. So if that's not what you want, if you want just a working class, lower middle class lifestyle, then just marry a guy who makes $60,000, $70,000 a year, and and call it a day. So it depends upon what you want, what the woman wants. Now I think it's important for the family unit to have enough income. And when I say to have enough income so that you don't have to think about, anytime you have to think about money, you're devaluing yourself. If you have to look at a man and say, oh, I'm so attracted to him, I really, he's a wonderful person, oh, but I can't marry him because he only makes $36,000